Warm welcome, everybody. I am incredibly honored to have Gita with us today. A little kind of story just to start. Gita was one of the first speakers at a women's chapter event many years ago, good 6 or 7 years ago now, I think. And I remember being so blown away by you, Gita, your energy and your passion for what you do. And it really kind of set the tone for what we do in terms of how we bring inspirational content and access to incredible women like you to our community. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. Before we kick off, many of you have been on our virtual events before, but just a few kind of house rules. Please do keep yourself on mute while we are having the chat, just to minimize background noise. I am recording this session. So if anyone is worried about that or doesn't want to kind of be seen, please bear that in mind. And that also means that you don't need to feverishly take notes or anything like that. We'll be sharing the link to the session with everyone afterwards via a follow-up email, which I know Geeta also has some resources that she'll share with you in that email. So without further ado, also before we continue, we're kind of going to have quite a flexible chat. I'm not going to have to do much because I've heard Geeta speak many times and she is amazing. So I think it's going to be one of those ones where I can probably just sit back and relax. But if you've got questions, please pop them in the chat, and we'll have a section of time at the end for questions and answers. If you want to, you're most welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question at the end. Otherwise, I'll read out the questions and keep an eye on the chat, and where possible, kind of direct the conversation that way. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Geeta, and I'm going to make sure that we can all see you here and stop my screen share so that we can see all of you. There we go. Brilliant.
Oh, wow. I love that. I really need to learn to use Zoom better. I just like that whole, the waiting room did this and the waiting room did that. That was funky as heck. So thank you for that amazing and very incredible introduction. I'm so grateful. Well, where would you like me to start? And also, if you have, I know we've got Q&A at the end. I'm really quite relaxed. If there are some things along the way you would like to ask me, pop them in. And if there's something that I can get to along the way, I'm going to do that as well. But we definitely have it at the end.
Well, I think for those that possibly don't know about your journey, I think it'll be really useful to give some context to today, for you to share your incredible journey of how you set up Nosh Detox and you became, very much the pioneer of home delivery and juicing in the UK. So you're still standing, and I know that.
I know, isn't that a bloody miracle all on its own?
But there are many companies that haven't. And even just the time that we've been running the women's chapter, many women-led juice companies that have come and gone. So I would love for you to share your story with us.
Okay, if I may, please, thank you. I'm an ex-corporate, if you do know about me, my apologies for boring you, but if you don't, I'm an ex-corporate lawyer, and my first child was incredibly ill, and he spent around 240 days of his first year in and out of hospital. And it was just ultimately just the crappiest experience ever, because I was on my own. I was very young. I was in my 20s. I didn't have any family here. And I just had no idea what the hell to do. And it was really supremely helped by my mother-in-law telling me that it all came from my side of the family. So yeah, that was awesome. And it just progressively got worse and worse and worse. And ultimately he ended up with cardiorespiratory arrest. He ended up in hospital and they had to resuscitate him. And he was this big, and he ended up, they successfully resuscitated him. He spent a week in intensive care. And my son had, it just sounds so pathetic, he had asthma, he had eczema and anaphylaxis. So it's not what you think will end up killing you, although now we know so much better. In those days, we had no idea. And, I remember him coming out of intensive care and sort of looking at this and thinking, this really sucks. I have no control. I don't understand what's going on. I know nothing. I was, like I said, in my 20s. My fridge was full of pizza, champagne, and cigarettes, I think was pretty much what I had. I just, I never cooked. My mother was a great cook. I grew up in, as you know, in Malawi. So we had people to help in the home. I was just not what you'd call a homebody. And I thought, sod this, I must be able to do a better job. I must be able to do a better job. I couldn't go to work. I lost my job. My marriage broke up. Just everything that could, excuse the language, fuck up, literally totally. And I remember looking around at this wreckage that was my life, thinking, whew, what do you do now? And I'm still only 20 something. And I went, luckily, having been a lawyer, I just knew how to research everything. So I did. So I looked for ways to help my son, and I would find one thing and then I did enough. And then I found that he had a problem with his stomach. So I started giving him papaya, because papaya is really good for your stomach. You know, you forget that now. We know papain is a digestive enzyme. In those days, we didn't know any of these things. I started learning how to cook him vegetables. We cut out dairy and gluten. We cut out, you know, he was allergic to dairy, gluten, fish, egg, and nuts. So, you know, and out of that, I then carried on. I had another, you know, my life carried, I was going to say I had another life, it felt like I did. And I carried on, I had more kids. And then I ended up, because I'm really, really crap at being a wife, I ended up divorced and I had 3 kids under the age of 7. And I couldn't go to the office because one of them kept trying to die behind my back. So I was like, I must be able to make money at home because I can't leave the home, ultimately, was what was in my head. And a sentiment that's gone down very well in lockdown, frankly. But, and I thought, well, what do I know how to do? I know how to help people's bodies. I can do anything with your body, anything, because I have spent years just fixing my son. And when you fix a child's health, it's instant. So you know instantly, because they throw up on you, that didn't work, or they get better instantly. Don't try this at home, but that's kind of how we had to learn, because it wasn't a medical thing that they could cure. So yeah, so I was like, well, okay, I know how to do health. So I set up Nosh on the side while I acted as a consultant. And I don't know if any of you have ever seen the Pursuit of Happiness, but that's kind of how I lived. It was between school hours. I worked flat out and then dropped it all to pick up kids and go back home. And it was, oh my God. And I would just charge numbers that were weird for anything that I could do. People would say, go and set up a telecoms license in Kenya and Rwanda. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. No clue. But I just did it because we had to eat. We had no money. And it was the most stressful time I feel it in my core now, my solar plexus. It was the most stressful time. And I remember thinking, this is just unacceptable. I need to find a way to stay at home, build a business, build something so that, you know, my children can see me and I'm here. And, you know, oh, it was awful. I had to have like 2 nannies when I wasn't there, because in case you had to go to hospital, someone had to be able to stay with the other kids. It sucked. Let me assure you, it completely sucked. So I set up Nosh in 2007 while I was doing all of this stuff. 2008, I was like, that's it. I can't remember what we made in 2007. I was like, this will work. We can live off this. And we'd gotten very good at living off fresh air. So I started working in Nosh 2008. We were the first company that did gluten. And we were the second company that delivered any food. There were only 2 of us. But we were the only one that did gluten and dairy-free food, because I wanted my son to be able to eat what we made, because he could never eat anything anyone ever made. You know, he went to a party, couldn't eat, went anywhere, couldn't eat. And then, so we did that. And then in 2008, July, we made juice fasts and started sending them, because my children, I was trying to hide spirulina in his food and things. And spirulina smells like pondweed. It looks disgusting and it stinks. So I put all the kids in front of a big blender, and I was like, right, it's got to taste okay. And this is what it's, and put spirulina in like these jars, and said, put anything in to make it taste good. And the one they liked, we still sell today, because it's the strawberry and banana with oat milk. So we still sell that today. And it was delicious, and you could, and I was like, how wonderful, it's green. You know how you just lie to your kids. But they liked the taste. So then I was like, oh, I wonder if anybody else, and then that's how juice fasting, we started to deliver it. So nobody did it. So we started to deliver them. And then we put the first cold press raw juices in Whole Foods in 2012. We brought IV drips to London in 2013. So we did a lot of innovation in Nosh. And we've ended up with the company that we have now. So that was a very long answer.
And tell me, no, I mean, that was amazing. I mean, I think, you know, we all take for granted now that you can go to, you know, a supermarket, or that you can go online and you can order cold pressed juices delivered to your house. But I guess in those days, I mean, was it a challenge for you to convince other people that you were onto something?
If you ever get bored, go and watch YouTube videos of me being shouted at on TV by people who said that telling people that you can't eat and you've got to drink juices is I'm trying to hurt them and I'm trying to destroy digestion. And I mean, the stuff, I used to just get attacked all the time because they were like, it's wrong not to eat. It's wrong. So one woman, there's actually one interview where a woman who's a nutritionist said, you can't ask people to give up bread. And gluten-free was a fad. Allergies were, you girls must remember, you women must remember that. Allergies were just a drama. It wasn't true. You know, you didn't really have allergies, like, you know, and people just, every step of the way. I remember with IV drips, the Medical Health Authority came and literally sat on my doorstep and went, what do you think? And I'm a lawyer, so I had read the medical, you know, going to Whole Foods, Waitrose, going to everywhere with cold press, going, this is why, you know, because pasteurized juices are so bad for you. They're just colored sugar water. And I was like, I don't want to make that product. That's not what I wanted to offer. So going to learn every step. I'm not innovating anymore because every step, it's so hard to think now what it was like then. My mother is now 86, so she was 77 or something. She was just like, oh my God, you've given up being a lawyer to be a caterer. I'll never be able to tell anybody. It's so embarrassing. I was just like, and then she got sick. So she came and she's like, can you fix this? I'm like, oh, now you want me to, you know, so it kind of every place, but it made me a living. You know, I could eat, I could send the children to school. I didn't have a roof over my head because I rented from people. You know, we started off renting one room.
Wow.
Yeah. So I came out of my marriage in a £8 million house and I moved into one room with the kids. So I've always liked to do things very dramatically, apparently.
I mean, I think, you know, and clearly you've, you know, developed a thick skin over the years, like with people, you know, with criticism, and that comes, it's part of the territory, isn't it, of being an innovator and a pioneer in a sector.
Well, and a woman and a coloured woman. Let's be really clear. It's something that I could not get press coverage. And everybody who was blonde and young and pretty who came after me got all the press coverage for everything. I couldn't get it. And so you have to, it's also something maybe I wouldn't have talked about until the Black Lives Matter stuff has happened, because now I do talk, I mean, I always talk about being Indian and how much of a trauma that is, but actually the color part of it, I couldn't get coverage because I didn't know these people that ran these magazines. I didn't look like what they thought their readers looked like. So nobody just wanted to put me. So I won 1 million awards and I had to always put them there because there was no other way for us to, but I worked my way around that. So I've worked my way around all of those things, but it was hard, yes. Wow. And money, trying to get a loan.
Yeah, no, I know, because you're the chair of the Microloan Foundation, aren't you? So does that stem from the experiences that you had in terms of trying to get funding?
Totally. I think that as women, we are so we are failed by the system on so many levels, because we are failed because we are supposed to be nice. We are failed because we're supposed to be nurturing. We're failed because we're supposed to be whatever the hell it is somebody thinks we should be, because they project everything onto women. But actually, the way women live today has changed so much, because in fact, what we are is breadwinners. What we are is change makers. And we don't have an infrastructure to be that person in. I didn't have anyone to look at and go, oh, I want to be like you. And so I was like, that's our job, for us to provide a role to be able to say no calmly and nicely. And it's very hard for us as women. And that's something I spend a lot of time around with my clients, that, you know, the sense of, I'm a very powerful woman. And I love that about myself, because I'm a calm, quiet power. 5 years ago, I was a very loud kind of a thing. Now I'm still passionate, but not quite as intense. But my power is such an inherent part of myself, and I'm very happy with it. And a lot of women are not comfortable with power, and a lot of men are really bloody uncomfortable with powerful women.
Wow. Well, I think before we move on to the stress and its impact, I would love if you could just kind of share two things. Firstly, the current environment obviously is challenging for any business owner, but also for, you know, anyone from a career perspective. We're completely in uncharted territory here How have you navigated this time? Because I think there is, like we said before the session started, this assumption that, you know, food and beverage and anything, you know, that those industries are surviving. But is that the case? Like, how are you?
No, I mean, a lot of my competitors are dropping like flies. It's really shocking. I look around and, I mean, our revenue dropped 94% in March.
Wow.
I mean, dropped 94%. Let's be clear, I pay for my bills. This is how I live, right? It's not like this is how we live. I mean, many of us are like that. And yeah, 94%. So it's been so what we did, actually, we kind of doubled down. And I realized that it took me so long to get here. I have to tell you, people, it sounds like I'm having a conversation. It was like, but you know, I'm an Indian woman. I was taught to shut up and look pretty. And I was like, I'm not so great at the look pretty part. And I'm really never going to shut up. So we need to find another methodology. But it was so hard. But my core skill set that came up when we hit this crisis is that I'm bloody good at crises, because I've done weathered so many of them. And I have a system that I use, and I have these 5 steps, which I was going to talk about when we get there. So what I did was, so from a strategic point of view, I doubled down and said, who are my clients? And I went back and I literally found and did a process. I hired someone, spent money I didn't have, and said, let's go back through my avatar. Who the hell are my clients? Then I stopped and I said, what do you want? What do you, my clients are basically women over 40. And I was like, what do you really, really, really want? In a place where there is enormous amount of change, you have no control, you're stressed as crap, and you have no idea what the heck is going to happen tomorrow. You don't want a sense of control, because control is fake and it's restrictive, and it's a step towards imprisonment, because you have to then sit in the box, right? If any of this is not making sense, please just tell me. But what you do want is a sense of power, because power helps you to flow through a process. And we teach our clients how to have the strongest sense of themselves and stepping into their power. And that's what I did. I was like, right, I feel powerful. I mean, I can live on air because, you know, I've been so bloody poor. And I was like, well, how do I help you to understand how to get a sense of power? And that's what we've done with our clients. And we've grown around 300% since March.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just through kind of going back to the basics, listening.
Went back to basics, listened. Yeah. But in fact, what's grown, and we started webinars. So I did a lot of lives, because I've done a lot of TV traditionally, and I was like, oh, I'll do a live. Oh my God, I hate them so much. I feel stupid. I look stupid. I hate them. I'm like, so then I found a different medium. So this medium, like webinars, and people are talking to you and chatting, you know, and the first time I did it, I was like, please will you talk to me? I don't want to be here on my own. Raging introvert here. And it was fine. And it worked really, really well. And then, so now we do webinars every week. And we talk about a different topic every week. And then we talk about how do we make you feel strong and confident and powerful.
Yeah. And
it's really paid off, because if you try and help people, apparently the universe just loves it. So I'm honestly, I'm so grateful. I'm like, really, you know, every day I wake up and I think, thank you, God, and we all move on.
Wow. Well, thank you. I mean, I know you have a real holistic approach, and you're very passionate about, with the current environment, what that's meant for working women, and our stress levels and the impact on our kind of core functions. So I would love for you to tell us more about that, because I think there are a lot of people here who are really keen to understand what advice you have, or implementable tips that you can share that they can use to navigate how they're feeling right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, literally, how long have you got? But let me start in one place. When I think my youngest, so when I walked out on my husband, my youngest was in nappies. So I must have been about 8 months old at the youngest. And then I had 8, 2 and a 7-year-old at the time. And I, probably a year into this, you know, that thing where you work 24 hours a day, because the buck always stops with us. That's the core of any time there's a crisis, anytime there's a problem like now, the buck stops with us, whether people doing the food, whether people doing the teaching, whether people doing everything. Most of the time. There are some wonderful people that don't live like that, and I'm grateful for them, and I'm jealous as hell, but that's the most of us. And I ended up one day having this, I always try, like Stella's saying, that I went to spirulina and juices. So I try every new supplement that turns up just to see what it does, how it works. And I tried the supplement and I was violently ill. I was so ill. I started to throw up, and I threw up for about 2 days. I just didn't stop. There was some part of my body that went, don't even think about that one. And I just carried on, because what are you going to do? I'm a single parent. I'm working. Day 2, my neighbors actually, my nanny went next door and called the neighbor, who came in and called the ambulance, because I couldn't move, couldn't do anything. And so they took me to hospital, which really sucked. And I came to kind of on a drip, because I had just gotten so dehydrated and I wasn't paying attention. And I tell you, the thing that happened to me then was, I sat there and I was like, I have to leave by 3. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, to go pick up the kids. She went, you can't leave. I'm like, I can't stay. There is nobody to pick up the kids. I've got to go pick up the kids. She's like, do you not have any family? I'm like, no. Husband? No. What? No. I've got to go pick up the kids. And then suddenly I was like, okay, well, actually, that some poor bugger actually, I was like, you have to go pick up the kid. Can you imagine trying to get some random man to go and pick up your children? That went down really well. I learned one thing. If I wasn't well, my life didn't work. And like everything in my life, I had to have it very dramatic for me to really take it home. If I didn't look after myself, nothing would work. If I didn't invest in myself, nothing would work, because I created and supported and was the foundation of my whole life. And I think for many of you women, you are also that, right? I mean, if any of you are, if you can sort of give me a heck yes type, or a hell yes even, that would be amazing. Because I think, I know clearly that if I don't look after myself, I don't make money, my house doesn't run, we don't buy food, we don't do, the amen will do, please. Yeah, exactly. I was thinking, the amen was what I should have said. Yes. So, but alongside that was that I am not going to spend money on myself, because all the money I spent on myself I was going to spend it on the kids. Mm-hmm. You know, I'd buy a mango and not eat it because I wanted the children to eat it, because, you know, and then it would go bad and we'd bloody throw it away, because that's what we do, because we're stupid. And I came out of there and thought, never again. My biggest investment now is constantly in who and how and where I come from at all times. And I don't even just say that, I absolutely live it. So having said that, let's talk about stress. Stress is one of, okay, so I want to give you a couple of funky facts, which is that, I wrote them down so I don't forget. Every single month, your body renews all of its skin. Every 3 months, your body renews all of your blood supply. Every 10 years, you renew your entire skeleton. Did anybody know that?
No.
Now, what's interesting about that is, despite all of those things, when I have that dot on my skin, even though my body is renewing itself every month, that bloody dot on my skin will stay there every month. And the reason we recreate our lives again and again, we recreate our skin again and again, we recreate our bodies again and again, our level of energy, our fatigue, is because it is the balance of how we manage and handle our emotions. Because our emotions imprint on our body. Everybody with me? Yeah? Feel free to kind of wave hands at me. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Good. Because it's, listen, there's one of me and there's many of you. So if you want to be doing that, I'm very grateful. So what your emotions do is they take you from rest and digest to fear and flight. Now we know that, we understand that. But what that actually means is that you are going from one sympathetic nervous system to another sympathetic nervous system. So when you're 5 years old, you think you're going to fall because you've just started to run and you're about to hit your knee on the pavement. You're like, oh, it spikes, you go into fear and flight. The minute you calm down, or your mother kisses your knee, or you do whatever, you slip back into rest and digest. Now, rest and digest is all your normal functions. Fear and flight is adrenaline, fear functions, right? You get to 12 and you like a boy and you send him a message And then everybody else sees that message and is laughing at you, or he sees that message and he replies, which is even worse. What happens is you go immediately into fear and flight, because your body does not know the difference between good stress and bad stress. It just knows stress. And then you take a bit longer to come back down to rest and digest, because like, I've recovered from that. By the time you're 18, you are sliding very easily into fear and flight and rest and digest. Fear and flight, rest and digest. By the time you're 24, 26, and your boss says, can I talk to you? You stay in fear and flight. By the time you're 35, your body's like, what do you mean rest and digest? Rest and digest what? Who, where, when? We used to do that? I didn't know that. I'm like, we're in fear and flight. And you stay in fear and flight. Now, why do we care that we're in fear and flight? Because the physical functionality of being in fear and flight means that you have used up all your adrenaline, you have moved to cortisol as a movement, but what's worse is cortisol has then stepped into your cellular functions and stopped normal hormone activity, because your body thinks you're running from the dinosaur. Now, when you are running from the dinosaur, you don't have time to look around you for shit. You're like, I'm running from the dinosaur. We're panicking, which is why they talk to you about being in surviving and not thriving, right? What that means is your body is constantly thinking, shit, run faster, harder. Yes? Does that sound familiar to everybody? Yeah. So, what is happening to you when you are running from the dinosaur? When you are running from the dinosaur, there are 3 things that your body does not need to do. 3 things. Sleep, because you can't rest. You're in danger. So you don't sleep to rest. You don't digest food over a 3-hour period. Your body goes in, boom, glycogen out of the muscles, and then boom, replaces it, because there's no point digesting stuff slowly. You're running from the dinosaur. And then fertility. Nobody needs to be pregnant, because if you get pregnant, you can't run. You can't run. It sounds so stupid, but it makes, if you think about it, it makes complete sense of your symptoms. Because there you are thinking, oh my God, why do I sleep so badly? Oh my God, why am I always bloated? Oh my God, my periods are screwed up. I have polycystic ovary syndrome. I have this, my insulin doesn't work. All of those things that relate to your insulin, your digestion, your sleep patterns, your stomach, all the functions that you need to recuperate, regenerate, and reset have stopped. So how do we know that they've stopped? Because you remember the good old days when we used to grow our own hair and nails? Before buying hair and nails. Yes. Do you remember the good old days when you used to have skin that wasn't dry? You remember the good old days where you didn't eat food and you got a little pot belly and you were like, oh, it's my baby tummy. Well, we don't say that anymore because we got too old for that. But when you're little, you're like, oh, that's so cute. My tummy's so bad. Then you get older and you're like, can you just fuck off and be flat again, please? That's a technical term in there. All of this comes from the fact that your body doesn't understand that you are not running from the dinosaur. Okay? So you've got your, just the physical side of it. I'm glad you're laughing. I thought I shouldn't be swearing on you, and here we are, sorry. They're all nutritional terms. So you've got your cells, and your cell has these little antennae that come out. This is the non-medical version of this. So just forgive me if you're a doctor, just ignore me. And what happens is each of these little membranes attracts to the cell what it needs. So you have a hormone version of this, which, by the way, is why vitamin D is so important for immunity, because it links to the immune function cells. So that actually, when it doesn't work well, the immune function cells don't work well. So that's why vitamin D is massively important for immunity. Now you're in flight, freeze and flight and fear, okay? What's happened is your body's gone, shit, shit, shit. Primary objective, run from the dinosaur. It has closed down normal hormone functions and given them to cortisol. It's like having a guest who comes in and takes over the master bedroom. It needs to be there. It needs to be there. You cannot disagree. So your bedroom has been taken over by these unwanted guests, and they have moved in as though they own your territory. Cortisol is functioning, and your normal hormone functions go down to 2 little bits here. At that stage, the longer you keep that going, although your body is a wonderful, incredible, amazing, inspirational machine, it just is functioning with one leg tied behind your back. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. In order for you to come out of this, who's been told you should just meditate? Yeah. How many people have been, have you wanted to slap people when they've said that to you? Or has it, because it works, right? For some people, but some people you're just like, would you go to hell while I slap you upside your face? You know, I mean, it's kind of, stop telling me to smile. It's the same thing. Don't tell me to meditate. When here I am dying, my brain can't slow down. I'm constantly at the back of my mind worried about stuff, and you want me to meditate. Well, forgive me while I ignore the crap out of you, because I'm actually not able to do that. And the reason you can't do that is because it's like being in a car and you press the accelerator and the pedal brake at the same time. You're revving very, very high. Okay, solutions. There are two primary solutions. One is short-term and one is deeper but transformational. The short-term solution is that you need to actually eat a lot more fat with every single meal that you're having. Did I hear a collective hell no? Because say again.
Good fat.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Now, I'm talking about eating, and I teach my clients, and we've had 15,000 clients, 98% of our clients reach their goals. I've had over 2,500 coaching clients, and 100% of my coaching clients reach their goals, because, you know, why wouldn't we? You've got to eat on every single plate that is in front of you, at every single meal of the day, eat 40% fat on every plate. I didn't understand this till I did all my research on, we launched a vegan keto program because I wanted to do ketogenics. I don't eat meat, and it is incredibly hard to have a huge amount of fat when you're eating vegan, because there are not enough calories and there are not enough any. I was just like, God almighty, how do I create 40%? But I noticed that when I got to 40% fat, it took me like 700 hours of research to get here. But when I increased the amount of fat in my diet, my hormones changed. My hair, which by the way, I mean, oh my God, lockdown, like, can we just get a hairdresser? My hair changed, my nails changed, my skin quality changed. And I became just a nicer person, if you ask my children, which we're not going to do. And I was like, what the hell happened? And I realized that my stress responses had actually changed. My ability of sleep had gotten deeper. My ability to just be in calmness had gone through the roof. So well, that was not very apt, gone through the roof, got better. So I went back and researched, and I went and rang up doctors and neuroscientists and endocrinologists, and I'm like, what the hell? And they said, the thing is that hormones move through fat. So your hormones go through your body using fat. So when you are, how many people know that when you're anorexic, you lose your periods, right? It's because they're not having enough fat. Not even just calories, not enough fat. So the higher the level of fat, and I promise you that we have put this in action and we have seen it work, the higher the level of fat in your body, the more your body kind of exhales and feels safer and allows your brain to chill. Because if your brain doesn't feel like the body is in a safe place, your brain will never chill. Nothing will ever happen. You can go for therapy, you can go for leadership training, go for anything the hell you want. Until your body and your brain feel safe with each other, nothing transformational happens. Because your body is still running on high levels of stress and it isn't revving down. It's picking things up very quickly through the mind, but it doesn't absorb. That's why you go on 20 diets and fail them. It's why you think, oh, well, I wanted to do that, but then I stopped. You know, those things. Until the mind feels safe in the body, that doesn't work. Is that making sense, guys?
And Geeta, examples of fat, because I think, you know, there are a lot of mixed messages out there, right? In terms of what a good fat is and a bad fat is, and depends on who you talk to. If you, I mean, what would your kind of top picks be in terms of things like that people should be adding to their diets?
Okay, so firstly, if you are a 22-year-old male personal trainer who works at 7 hours a day, you are very welcome to eat like him. If you are not, please feel free not to eat like him at all. Eat like people that look like you who are telling you how to eat as a starting point, right? Or live like you. Secondly, when you're talking about fat, because we are trained not to eat fat, you have to consciously look at every plate and make sure you've got a lot of fat in it. And the fats that I eat I'm vegan. So, I mean, I'm vegan for 28 days of the month, and then for 2 days of the month I'm like cheese, but I'm vegan for 28 days because for 2 days of the month my body's like give. So I put avocados, I use nuts, I use very expensive good olive oil on everything. I put tahini. If you eat meat and fish will do it. But we teach, I have this very expensive, very funky prop, and this is what I did in my webinar the other day. This is what we call a perfect plate. 40% of your plate is fat. This is protein, this is fiber. So this is what we teach. And the reason that matters is because in order for your body to, your life to change, not just, so is that enough? Coconut is fat. Sorry, what are the, I'm sure you guys know lots of things.
Yeah, no, I think those were some really good examples. Thank you.
Just put them in every meal, okay? Just try and change them up, but put them in every single meal. From breakfast, lunch, dinner, every meal needs to have a lot of fat. And then your hormones will completely transform, and you will change, and you will feel like a normal person instead of some batty person who wants to kill everybody in front of you. And as a final sort of thing, we have, in Nosh, we talk about the 5-step, the feel-good system, because you feel good again at the end of it. So we're like, let's be really basic about it. But applying, if you're going to change your life, there are 5 things you need to look at. One is diet, because it's really important, and it's a starting point, because without this, nothing else works. Secondly is your relationships. And it can be, if you're really worried about food, it's your relationship with food. If you're worried about work, it's your relationship with work. Whatever the relationship is we're looking at. It's your mindset. It's the 4th thing is setting up and creating healthy habits. And the 5th thing, to pull it all together, is to have a plan with purpose. And so we put people through this process, because when you try and change anything and you fail, it's not that you haven't tried hard enough. You're all driven, ambitious, bright as hell women, all of you. But if you don't make a difference across everything, it doesn't land in your system, and you haven't done a transformation. You've done a tweak, right? So from a tweak to a transformation, look at every one of those steps, and then your transformation occurs. That was a lot of information. Are we good? Everybody's alive?
Yeah, that's good. Someone is asking about menopause. What helps that from a kind of, from a food perspective, I guess, but also how do we get better sleep?
In terms of food, menopause is always going to come and start with your food, because your hormones are changing so much. What you want to do is have a constancy across it. And so it really is and for women, it's a time when we transform our thinking from who we are to who we're going to be. That's why menopause is actually such a massive transition. You have to have the more holistic approach. And fat, really, how you eat, fat and fiber are phenomenally important, because fiber cleans excess hormones through your colon. Joy says her nails have grown, and it's all the fridge and excessive eating. Well, hopefully you've had a lot of fat and a lot less stress. So with menopause, it's about balancing your food intake and making sure that you've got really sustaining rituals that support you through the process.
Brilliant. So Geeta, am I right in thinking that, if we're looking at these sort of the core functions, our sleep, our fertility, our digestion, is adding more healthy fat to our diets a secret? Is that the kind of secret ingredient?
It changes everything, because your entire stomach runs off hormones. We think that hormones are things we do with periods or whatever, but your whole stomach has a series of between 7 and 15 hormones that manage all your stomach function. And so when your hormones are out of whack, you get bloated. So just two simple hormones, for example, your hunger hormone, which you must have heard of, is ghrelin. So as your ghrelin rises, you get more and more hungry. And as you eat, your ghrelin levels, which is a hormone, drop and drop and drop. And another hormone comes in, leptin, which says, I'm feeling fuller and fuller and fuller, stop eating. Those are two basic functions that just manage hunger. Now, if you eat crap, that has stuff like high fructose corn syrup in it, for example, or just processed corn, it bypasses the leptin function. So you overeat because you never feel full. Right? So it, again, then all comes back to diet. So eating at menopause, cutting out processed food makes a huge difference, and cutting out things like corn make a very, very big difference. Anybody who has problems with hormones, bloating, your gut, everything around your hormones, sleep. Okay, so with stress affects your hormones. Your hormones affect sleep, digestion, fertility. In order to balance all of that, you want to start with your diet and start with your stomach. And when you heal your stomach, everything comes from that and gives you a level playing field, actually.
Brilliant. Well, and I've got one last question before I think we open up to everyone else. I mean, obviously we're all in this unique situation now where we have to spend a lot more time at home than we were used to. I've heard lots of people complaining about the lockdown 5, having put on 5 pounds. You know, I think some of that comes from boredom, or, you know, us going constant, or just having more access to the fridge than we used to, I guess. But do you have any other tips beyond, you know, adding fat to our diets around how we can get, I don't know, some more restorative time for ourselves? Because I think, you know, there's that whole fight and flight side of things, but then we need to balance that with giving our bodies a chance to restore. Any tips that you have on how we can do that better when we're all stuck in the house with our family members, or even those of us that live alone and just might be really lonely, you know, that takes its toll on you as well?
I mean, those are sort of two questions. The physical element of this is honestly do a detox. You do my detox, do somebody else's detox, do a 3-day juice fast, and just get on with it. We should do them every single month. Even my children, my elder daughters, do them they've been doing them since they were 16. They're fantastic for balancing hormones, fantastic for resetting the system, but do juices that have fiber in them, not these, you know, not juices without fiber. So doing a detox is, and especially if you're sitting in a house with a bunch of people, put everybody on it at the same time. It's probably not a bad thing for everyone to feel misery together. But it is the fastest, easiest way to get clarity of mind, and to get you to feel. You can do your own detox. We give you lots of free recipe books and things. You can even do them yourself. That's really the starting point, and the 5 pounds will disappear during the process of the detox. It'll make you feel better. The emotional side of it is that when you're in lockdown is absolutely the best time for you to work out how your family is going to understand and respect the fact that you need your space. It's the best way to put that into the system. There is no better time for people to understand that how you feel really matters. And as women, successful, professional, intelligent women, we're crap at receiving, and we're crap at asking for our own things. And it's something that we need to be better at. And lockdown is that's why I'm saying those are kind of two different questions. One is the physical side, one is the emotional side.
Yeah, no, because I think when we first spoke about, you know, doing this event together, one of the things that really resonated, and I've been hearing this from a lot of my friends, saying they feel like they've been pushed back into the 50s. You know, they're all educated women who, you know, have careers, and yet there's this constant, you know, cleaning, cooking, moving from one mealtime to the next. I mean, my kids are constantly hungry. And maybe they were always like that, but they're just not at home as much, that kind of thing. So like, how do we carve out some time or something for ourselves and put a pause to this cycle, this relentless cycle that I think many of us have landed up in? I mean,
I you know, it's a really, I would like you to, I'm going to be extremely clear about this question. I would like you to not hate me for it. It is absolutely, no, because I mean, if you ask me the question, I will absolutely answer, because I think this is such a large part of women feeling the self-confidence and the power inherent in themselves. You cannot feel powerful when you're run down, resentful, and you hate people. You can't. I've tried it. It's just not possible. So I don't spend money on other things, and I spend money on making sure those things are taken care of. And I just literally, when we went into lockdown, I threw one of the kids out of the bedroom and moved a lady in who did all my cleaning and my cooking and whatever. Happily, she didn't have anywhere to live. And that worked for her. Not happily, she'd never anywhere to live, but you know what I mean. We helped each other, and I don't do that. I don't do those things. They don't improve my character, and they don't make me feel better. And I'm much more useful making the money that I need to make sure that my children's bills are paid for and schooling is paid for, because no one's giving us any discounts on fucking bloody online school, which really annoys me. And that's what I'm going to do. So you need to decide what makes you a nicer person for yourself. And I know what makes me a nicer person for me. That doesn't work for everyone, but those are things I will never do. I will not do them.
So set boundaries, I guess.
I have very, very clear boundaries, because if I get sick, nobody does my job. That's why I started with that story, because it made such a distinct impression on me. I have never let go of it. I don't apologize for it. I don't talk about it. I wouldn't even now. I'm like, don't hate me. Because I understand that not everybody thinks like that. I would rather not buy shoes, clothes, handbags, anything, and spend money on doing this. But I have coaching clients who've come in who are earning 6, 7 figures a year. And there was a woman who came in, and she was very, very senior in BlackRock. And she said, she was sitting there and she was just in tears. And I'm like, what is the matter? Because I've got to leave coaching early because I've got to go home and cook dinner because I'm away for 3 days. I'm like, seriously? She goes, yeah, because the kids don't have anything to eat. And this is not lockdown. And she was, one child's 16, one's 18, and her husband didn't work because he was at home. Wow. And she used cooking as a way of saying, no, and it doesn't matter. I bring in 20 times more money than you. And so we had to work her emotionally out of that space. But because women do this, we do this. This is how we live. We want to look after everybody around us. And I do lots of other things. I work 12-hour days. Those are not on my plate ever. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. No, I think that's really great. And I mean, one of the things that, we've all learned through this process, right, is that health is paramount. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Exactly.
You can't function. You can't be anything to anyone unless you have your health. So I
think also you can't learn anything new. You can't learn anything new. When you're sick, how do you absorb new information? You're of no use to yourself, let alone someone else.
Brilliant. Great. Well, I'm going to open up to everyone else because I think I have asked lots of questions now. Everyone, please feel free. If you've got a question, I'll move us over to gallery view so I can see everyone. If you would like to pop something in the chat, I can read that out. Or if you would like to unmute yourself and ask a question, please do.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, Joy.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ben, go ahead.
Oh, good morning, Gita. How are you? Thank you, Gita, for sharing that. That was brilliant.
You're so welcome.
Excellent. We met years ago, but you probably don't remember. I just wanted to find out, I'm a woman of color as well. Excuse my face. I'm still in my dressing gown.
That's fine.
Sure. I'm also a woman of color, and I've been in the personal style and image consultancy industry for 13 years. And what I found is that I get lots of press with Black press, any national press. You mentioned earlier on that you struggled with getting noticed for what you did. How did you persevere? And are there any tips you can also give a woman of color? Because I know I'm good at what I do, but it's just not nice not being recognized, and people that just come on suddenly are all over the media. What tips would you give to either get noticed or just to persevere?
So what I did was and she loves me. We're really good friends, and but I literally asked my girlfriend. I said, "Who is the most upper class British blonde PR that you know?" I did, and she, I was like, "I want somebody who answers to the name of." Forgive me, please, but I'm being very honest. I said, "I want someone who answers to the name of Tiffany, practically. Just could you find not Tiffany because we're in England."
Yeah, but I know what you mean.
I hired her.
Okay, so you hired a PR person that was more socially accepted, basically.
Yes, I hired a PR who had what I didn't have.
Okay.
And I was extremely calm and clear about it. And that's what I wanted to do. You can't, until the BLM movement happened, you couldn't have a conversation about race and how much it affected you. But you know it did, right? You keep seeing it again and again, but because people are like, "Oh, just try harder," or some crap like that. I was like, whatever. I hired her. I love her. She worked for me for 6 years, I think it was, till 3 years ago.
Thank you. And I think what I also did, sometimes subconsciously, so when I started my business, I didn't put my face on my website at all. Now I've changed that.
Oh yeah, I do.
of my clients are blonde, are white, but I think that the perception is that as a Black woman, you can't work with other races. So what you're saying is hiring somebody that will represent your brand. Did you show your face? Did she show?
Always. I've always shown my face. Because I did a brand thing really early on, and it said, put your face everywhere. And I hate it. I honestly, this is why I'm good on TV, because I'm a functioning introvert. I'm really good like this, but put me in a room with lots of people and I cringe. And I went right ahead and put my face everywhere. And because it actually helps people, you know more today about me than you did before we started this. And you will have a level of liking and trusting me or hating me. But more often than not, you will like or trust me because you know who I am. And that's the biggest deal, I think, when you're running a business.
They always say that people buy people, not necessarily yourself.
100%.
Yeah, thank you very much, Geeta.
You're welcome. Good luck.
You're a breath of fresh air. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Geeta, we've got a question in the chat. Someone is asking, can you talk me through a simple 3-day detox?
That is not a simple question, because we can take it to but okay. So let's just look at the parameters of a detox. The parameters of a detox are that you give things up that take the body a long time to digest. So give up gluten, give up dairy, give up sugar. That is one level of detox. Giving up food, cooked, chewing food is another level of detox. So you can just have soups. Yet another level of deeper detox is to actually have blended fruit and vegetables, and then having those. So that would be the ultimate level of a detox.
Okay. And then I think there's a secondary, what would help with inflammation of the gut? Do you have?
Detoxes are phenomenal. Fat is very, very good for inflammation of the gut. But generally, when people have inflammation of the gut, you've had a very critical parent, and you have a issue around a category 2 and 3, relationships and mindset. So you want to kind of look at managing relationship and mindset as well in order to balance your gut issues. It just is one of those things that we have found again and again.
Wow, thank you. It's really helpful. Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, we've got one here. How long typically does it take to deal with gut issues?
Weirdly, when you find the reason that your gut is playing up, very quick. The finding of the reason the gut is playing up can sometimes take a bit longer. Yeah. So you need to kind of, Michelle's going to send out a link to book in a chat with me. So if you want to book in you can do a half-hour chat with me and I can help you to find it. But you need to find out why. And generally speaking, once you can find out, it is not a medical issue. You know, gut inflammation, it's really hard to find a medical approach to fix it. So generally it has to be holistic, and generally it has to be diet and emotion based. Those are the two things that heal the gut.
Thank you. And I think somebody was about to ask a question when I read that out. No? Okay. There's another one here.
Yeah, Christy, do you mind if I just answer it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't cut out carbs. Absolutely. Just don't cut out carbs. Carbs, when I did this wonderful, techno prop, this section is fiber. And fiber, in theory, is carbs. But every webinar we hold, we will tell you that giving up calories, giving up carbs, giving up fat is the exact bad thing for you to do. So carbs, add loads and loads of fruit, vegetables, and all of that stuff. Add them to your diet and add fat in as well. And have a lot less protein than you think. Okay. And if you are hungry, let me give you one tip. If you eat a meal and you're hungry within 3 hours, that was not a balanced enough meal. Go back and put more fat in and put more fiber into that meal. So when I eat, I have to be full for a minimum of 3 to 4 hours. Otherwise that meal wasn't balanced, and I understand that, and I go and I fix it the next time.
Ariel's asking, what do you think about plant-based diets?
I eat plant-based. So I eat plant-based almost the entire time. I think they're fantastic. Plant-based, you have 2 problems. One, there are not enough calories in plant-based food. Not enough calories. You have to do the exact opposite of everybody's stupid training and eat much, much more. 2, make sure it's a lot of fruit. 3, a lot of fat. I keep saying that, but a lot of fat, because there's no natural fat in a vegetable.
And Geeta, actually, I have a question about that plant-based diet, because obviously now in the supermarkets, there are whole vegan sections. Even the likes of Tesco has a plant doctor range. you know, how nutritionally, well, how much nutritional integrity do those kinds of processed vegan foods have? I mean, do you advocate people kind of cooking as much from scratch or?
Always. I spend money on food being beautiful quality food being brought in. I spend money on somebody making it. As I keep trying to tell my bloody children who all went vegan and then bought crap from Marks and Spencer's that didn't look like food. Processed food is processed food. It is not, one of the first things we teach our clients when they come in is the nutrient density of food. That is your core barometer of everything that you're going to eat. Nutrient density is more important than anything else. And processed food has zero nutrient density. I used to say when my children were younger and I was doing speeches, when I just started off, I used to say, when you buy a sandwich in the wrapping, eat the wrapping because it has more live matter than a sandwich that has sat out for 4 days. And then a university in Canada got in touch with me 3 years ago and said they'd done a research on it and they thought that I was right. Just saying.
Wow. Brilliant. Well, I think we've got another 3 minutes, so we've probably got time for one more question if anyone would like to ask one. Here we go. Oh, someone's asking about the link. I'll be sending out a follow-up email.
I can put it in the chat if that's okay with you as well.
Yeah, stick it in the chat, that's fine. But I'll also follow up because I will include the link to the recording of the session as well. So there we go.
That'd be great. Also, if you want, you can always email us and get a 10% discount if you want to do a detox or something. I think we always have kind of like an offer.
Yeah. And we have a special women's chapter offer as well, actually, on our website.
Absolutely.
So
we have one on your.
Yeah.
We have one just for you guys, your people on the back end.
Yeah, so I'll include that in the follow-up email as well if anyone is interested. I have done one of Geeta's juice detox, and I've had many of your juices, and they're absolutely amazing.
They taste good, don't they? It's such a lovely.
Yeah, I'm a big juice advocate.
And now, if you think about it, you know the children invented most of those. How funny is that?
Yeah, well, and do you know, I mean, because spirulina does taste awful, right? And a lot of those things do, any of the green powders. But yeah, I definitely, somebody's saying, Gita.
Yeah, we have it on the website, on noshdetox.com. There you can sign up for, there's quizzes and all sorts of things. All of those will put you on our mailing list.
Brilliant. Well, I think, Gita, thank you. Wow. I just love how honest and open you are about your journey and all of your medical terms, which is, no, I mean, it's really refreshing. So thank you so much to have this kind of no holds barred approach to nutrition and the challenges that we're facing as well.
Oh, I'm so grateful that you gave me the space, you allowed me to come, you ladies gave up your time. Instagram is my name, @Geeta Sidhu-Robb. I just have the weirdest spelling name. I'll put that in. I'm so deeply grateful. Thank you for making the time. It's so intense at the moment. So I'm so grateful that you've even made the time.
No, well, we're really grateful that you made time for us, because I know that you work insane hours and you have a really big business to run as well as a family to look after. So thank you very, very much.